There are few things I enjoy in this life as much as a nice Airtable. The team at Airtable has been bringing the heat with updates this year. We're gonna look at new Outlook automations, Regex Functions, Gantt charts, sidebar sections, multi-source sync, and a bunch of new integrations. All that on this edition of Launch for Accountants. So, if you haven't before, check out airtable.com/what's new, where they have naturally an Airtable base embedded here with each of their ongoing updates. I'm not gonna hit on all of them because there's a lot. I'm gonna hit on the 5 or 6 that got me most excited this year. So first, are you living in Office 365? Now, we've got triggers for Microsoft Outlook now when an email is received. Pretty straightforward. You connect your Outlook account. Each time an email comes in, this one's gonna fire. Got a couple new Outlook actions as well. Add an action here. You can now send an email and create and update events. All that from inside of Airtable. No fussing with a third-party tool like Zapier. All that stuff's happening inside your Airtable base. All right, Regex Functions. You're gonna find this inside of your formula fields. You've now got Regex extract, match, and replace. At this point, either you're confused or you're excited, but these are regular expressions. Regular expressions are used when you wanna parse certain formats of data out of, a big block of text or something like that. It's the kind of thing bots do when they scrape a load of text from a website and they want to pull out, say, all the phone numbers. It's really powerful for cleaning up data specifically. So if you want to pull email addresses out of something, this is a really powerful set of formulas. Airtable now has Gantt views. So you've probably seen Gantt charts in other tools, kind of the horizontal orientation timeline format. I'm gonna throw a couple data points in here and we can scrap one together.
A few minutes later.
All right, so I've thrown some dummy data in here. All I've got is start dates and end dates. I'll show you how easy it is to set up a Gantt view. So I'm gonna go down to the bottom left here, create a Gantt view, and it's gonna ask you for a start date and an end date for each. So start date, end date, continue. You can actually set up dependencies if certain tasks are gonna be blocked by other tasks. If that's the case, you would point to the field that indicates those dependencies here. I'm gonna say continue without, and then you can also have milestones. So if a record doesn't have a start date by default, it's going to treat it as a milestone if you toggle this on. I'm gonna skip past that, and setup is complete. So I've got my 3 records here, and kind of like the calendar view, what it's gonna show you here is that primary field, the leftmost field, is the text that's gonna display here. In this case, I've just got 1, 2, 3. That's not that helpful. But oftentimes what I do is make this like a formula field maybe and pull in the status or concatenate a few bits of text so that that's actually a helpful label. We don't need to worry about that. Now hop back into the Gantt view. So it does what you'd expect from a Gantt chart, I think. It's nice you are able to move these around, dynamically resize them, and the underlying records update. In some cases, the calendar view isn't that helpful because it doesn't layer your timelines on top of each other quite like a Gantt view does. So I think this one will have some helpful applications. Now, if you are like me, you end up with an embarrassing number of views on the left-hand side here. I'm always afraid I'm gonna mess up some important aspect of another view. Well, views can now be organized into sections. You'll see that down on the bottom left here. So I'm gonna say create a section. Maybe I'm gonna say automations, because I've got third-party automations happening on these views, so changing these views may create issues with those other automations. It's as simple as making that section and dragging those views into the section. Pretty handy. Makes a long list of views much more manageable. You can collapse and expand these suckers, and gives you another kind of dimension where you can add a bit more context to those views. Now, multi-source syncing. What does that mean? I'd encourage you to check out the support article here. If you remember, last year had a huge update with base sync. For the first time, the ability to sync records between 2 different bases. So guess what multi-source syncing does? Give you an example. Inside of Airtable, you can create a new table in your base that pulls in records from any other base you have in Airtable. I'm gonna say create a new table and sync data from your Airtable base. Now, anytime data is changed in that other Airtable base, it's gonna sync over into this one. That has loads of applications, from employee rosters to client lists, the kind of things that have a single source of truth, but you do a whole bunch of other stuff based off of, like project management. that sort of thing. So we're gonna create a vanilla synced table. This is what they rolled out last year. I'm gonna pull in important business data. There's only one table in this one and the default view. Select which fields you want to sync. I'm gonna just pull all the fields in from that other table and create table. So this has pulled in 3 records. If I go over to the important business data table, you'll see these are the only 3 records in it. And it's now pulled it in. You can see a little lightning bolt right here that indicates that this is a synced table and it's pulled these records in from elsewhere. Now, the news here is you can do this from multiple sources now. So what if I have this other important data in this other table, Smith, Johnson, and Peterson? I need to get that into the eggs bean 5 table. So let's hop back over here. Now we're gonna add another source. Add records from, Airtable base, other important data, default table, default view. I'm gonna pull this in. Now, how do I want the data in that secondary table to line up with the fields in the existing table? This one's really easy. There's one field in either, so it's gonna pull it into this single field that there is. But if you take a look at this support article, there's some super powerful examples, like pulling 3 sources into a single place, selectively mapping which of the fields from the new sync base you want to pull back into your main base. You can toggle how it maps each one of them, whether or not you want them at all. Gives you some really cool flexibility. That's all we're gonna touch on today. They've rolled out a bunch of other integrations as well. Things like you can now do what we just saw with Box. Rather than syncing from another base, you can sync from your file system. Also got a host of new integrations inside the automations, things like Hootsuite, Salesforce, and a few others. So check that one out at airtable.com/what's new. If you're just getting started with Airtable, our sister community Realize has a whole bunch of training resources for accountants. Of all the tech we've explored, and we've looked at everything from database systems to API connectors to robotic process automation, Airtable has been the most popular inside our community. So if you wanna learn more, check out Realize at rlz.io. Get you everything from training wheels, just getting started with Airtable, to total Airtable wizard. That's it. This is Launch FA, where we explore cool tech for accountants, and I'll see you in the next one.